Hey, how's everybody doing? Welcome to Talking Shit with your boy Sophisticated Jerk. And today, man, I just wanted to go over this video. I seen another one of these I'll say gurus or relationship people do another comparison with, like, I'll say American men to like men of different cultures and stuff. So the lady's name was, let me look it up real quick, Priscilla Facey. And she was bringing up the culture in Japan where, the men over there, they hand money over to the wives, to manage the household. And the thing that kind of pissed me off about this video is I think a lot of times people try to be slick when they do these comparisons, because it's just like, hey, the men over here, they hand the money over and they allow the control to happen, just to try to put the onus on the guys as far as like, oh, you guys are too controlling over here. You don't have trust and all that. But, they never take the conversations to the layers that need to go. Because first of all, I was like, okay, if I was like doing this, I would look at it like, why do those guys have trust? Why do they trust the women? Are the women like selfless, where they put the household first? They're not materialistic to the point where it's just like, man, you could let them manage the household. Then also, when you're talking about a leadership component, if that guy is in that leadership position, he's not relinquishing control. He's delegating, because he was moving intentional. He found a woman that aligns with his vision and stuff, and she's about the family first versus like her own selfish wants. So it all kind of ties together. But when you hear people kind of talking about these dynamics, they always kind of put it into a position where like, oh, you should do this to kind of relinquish this so the other person has power. Because she asks us a question at the end, like, is it power controlling the money or earning it? So the fact that she would even phrase the question like that to put it in a power dynamic shows like the mindset of people a lot of times in these cases and stuff, where it's just like you get two people that align with each other and they put the household first. It should never be a power dynamic, because you should be putting the household first to the point where it's like you want the household to excel. So that's when you start delegating, like, hey, I'm gonna do this over here. You're better at this area over here. Like, we don't need to micromanage each other because we both got similar mindsets, where it's like we don't have to worry about the trust element because we're gonna do the right thing. And so, let me go ahead and pull this clip up and y'all gonna see what I'm talking about. Give me 1 second.
They say men want to lead, but in Japan, most men don't even manage their own money. In a lot of Japanese and Korean households, the man gives his entire income to his wife, and she gives him back a fixed allowance. That's
some little kid shit.
He gets pocket money, kind of like he's in high school. Now, depending on where you're from, this might sound insane or totally normal. But here's what I find fascinating. It's not just about money. It's about control, trust, and tradition. Over there, managing the money means managing the household. And in a lot of cases, the woman's in charge. She makes the budget, she plans for retirement, she tracks the savings. She decides when they upgrade the car. It flips the whole narrative. Over here, men are expected to provide and manage and plan. But over there, they work, they provide, and they let go of the control. So it makes me wonder, is it really about who makes the money or who controls it? They say men...
Let me pause right there. So the issue, that's what I'm saying. So when you hear this, it's like, first of all, like I said earlier, the man is delegating. So like I said, if he's aligned with his woman and she's, virtuous, trustworthy, he has no problem turning the money over because he knows she's going to be looking at the right things to elevate that household. So like when she was mentioning, she's looking at the retirement, she's looking at like saving the money versus spending it. Yeah, you don't have to worry about those dynamics. So that way he's just like, look, I could focus on like work, probably chasing promotions and stuff. And hey, you manage the household. So it's not a control thing. It's just like splitting tasks. So even if you look at like a relationship, like a company, companies have like CEOs, CFOs, CTOs, CIOs. So it's like, man, you have all these delineation of roles. So that way, like people don't have overlap. You're not micromanaging. You could be more efficient doing stuff that way. So a lot of people that are kind of perverse in relationships and looking at it the wrong way, they look at it as a control dynamic. But it's like, no, like we're going to be more efficient by splitting up these tasks and becoming proficient. So I can look at analyze your skills and make sure that I'm aligning you properly, that I'm just not using you as a basic person and stuff like that. Because we, like I said, we have similar mindsets. So that's where she's missing out in that conversation. And then even when you're looking at like cultures and stuff, sometimes you got to go levels deeper in the research. And that's why it kind of irritates me with a lot of people online nowadays, because they want to just drive home a point, but they don't vet out and they don't do like any in-depth research and shit. So like in this case, it's like, okay, are those traditions still holding? Because what we're seeing across the board is like the newer generation is not sticking to the traditional methods, because they're looking at it like, man, I ain't about to hand over my money to nobody and be no little kid where they handing me allowance and shit. Because people are changing from the traditions. So even the women, it's like everybody's becoming a little more materialistic, a little more self-centered. So a lot of people are struggling with that. They're like, man, you're not that trustworthy where I could just give you my check, because you're going to end up putting a, escape fund, portions of that going over to that. You're going to be hiding money. You're going to be like buying handbags and shit. So it's not like dudes want to control everything, but a lot of guys are just looking at it like, man, I got to make sure I have transparency over the funds, because I want to make sure that we hit our goals and stuff. And what you kind of see is a lot of people try to pull people from them goals. So, man, let me pull up some of these articles, because I want to show you what I'm talking about. Because over in like, China, South Korea, and Japan, man, they're having a marriage crisis. So it kind of undercuts what she's saying as far as like tradition in those areas that she referenced, because she referenced Japan and South Korea, but they're having historic lows as far as marriage. So it goes to show like those newer generations is like, we ain't fucking with them traditions. We ain't doing that bullshit. so it's kind of funny when you start like pulling out the facts in these conversations. And I think we got to start doing that, because like I said, people are sitting there trying to make their position, but they too lazy to do the research and, vetting out their information before they put this out, and like I said, they're trying to be slick because they want to drive home that thing, but nah, we gonna start pushing back on some of this shit. So here's the first article I found. So it's like crisis in East Asia, China, South Korea, and Japan's populations on a complete free for all. So in this article, man, they start talking about like the lowest, like start off the paragraph. In 2024, China registered its lowest number of new marriages in 4 decades. The trend only shows the country is experiencing the deepest demographic challenges and a shrinking population and falling birth rate. So that's one of the articles. Let me pull up a couple more, man, just to show you. Because like I said, I don't just try to find one that fits my narrative and stuff like that. But it's just like, man, when you look at the data and stuff, it's like it's showing across the board. So here's the second one. Marriage crisis. Japan's birth rate falls to a record low despite 25 billion government intervention. So it's so bad over there that the government is like, hey, we got to infuse cash. We got to incentivize people to, move over, try to take on this traditional stuff and, boost up our population. And then under that is like the number of annual marriages on the island nation dipped below 500,000 for the first time in 90 years in 2023. So it's so bad, man. They were calling it the like marriage ice age and stuff, so they coining terms for that. So, shit is bad over there. Then hold on. Here's the last one. Let me pull that up real quick. Give me 1 second. So this one, marriages in South Korea fall by 40% within a decade. So does that look like people that like really want that tradition? So no, I just thought it was funny. I was like, man, let me dig into this and see what I saw the clip and I was just like, that don't sound familiar. But I was like, let me do some research and vet this out a little bit. And when I saw that, I'm like, oh yeah, let me hit this live real quick and give some pushback on that. So I see what she's kind of saying, to a point where she was like, if she would have phrased it as far as like, hey, man, if you got a good person that's aligned with you and they're going to do the right thing with the money, you don't need to micromanage them. they can handle some things and y'all can both build a household, I'll be on board with that message because, I come from a situation like that. Me and my wife, both high earners, both put the household first. So we both look for opportunities to gain more money, make our money work for us and bring it back to the household. But it's not about a control thing. It's about like I said, us excelling as a household. So when she mentioned the question, like, is the power in earning the money or controlling it? It's fucking earning. Because think about it. You might be able to control the funds, but say that guy one day comes home like, I don't want to be here no more. I don't want to be in this situation. I'm tired of this and he wants to pivot to a whole new method. You're asked out. So I think a lot of times people want to recreate these new power dynamics instead of just like aligning with that person to see how they can make like life easier, how they can make sure they can sell that household so everybody wins. So instead of focusing on that, it turns into this whole power dynamic, like she was trying to phrase, like, oh, is the power in managing the money for the household? Okay, yeah, say you're managing it and that husband one day is like, you know what, I don't want to be here no more. I found somebody else, or I just want to be single and stuff like that. Yeah, are you powerful in that moment if you don't know how to earn money in the way that like the globalism and capitalism works? Yeah, you fucked at that point. We see a lot of this stuff playing out in society. So my whole point to all this is, man, don't get trapped up into this whole power dynamics. Man, be efficient, work with somebody, excel. And when you don't have no bills and stuff like that, you have excess, and you don't even have to worry about none of this shit. You're just chilling with your spouse, your significant other. Y'all enjoying life. So that I think you need to strive for that versus all these stupid ass dynamics. But all right, y'all, man, I've been ranting enough. I just wanted to kind of hit this one and stuff like that. Because like I said, I always see people trying to compare American guys to like other cultures and shit. And when you like look at our culture, man, we doing good. American men over here handling shit, doing good jobs and stuff. But, like I said, this is like one of the biggest forms of manipulation when they trying to do this stuff to like try to do guys over here. And y'all handling business, man. We just, if a female don't want to align with you and she ain't happy, man, push her ass to the side. Find somebody that will align to you. All right, y'all. Peace.